wonderfultv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today we want to talk about the funny topic of, well, not funny, it's sad and funny topic of bad relationships and divorce, and just kind of what happens when things, when Black love or whatever love turns into something other than what we expect. And today's topic really has to do with a guy who has been around for a long time. He's kind of a hip hop veteran. Some would say he's a legend, depending on how you view it. His name is Young Jeezy, and Young Jeezy, who he's not Young Jeezy no more. He's really more like, his name should be changed to like Old Geezer, because he's like I think he's got to be in his 40s right now. So that's what happens when you call yourself young. You ain't gonna be young forever. But he just had a divorce, or announced a divorce with a his wife. Her name is Jeannie Mai. And today, so I wanted to just kind of talk about some of that in terms of just some disturbing things that I saw and how this kind of relates to relationships. So to join me in this conversation is the one and only Madam President. How you doing today, Madam President?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good, good, good to see you. Good to see you. And everybody that's coming in, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, and let's do a quick audio check. Can you guys hear me? Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me. Give me a big yes if I'm coming through all right. Let me know. Everybody type the word yes to let me know that you're able to hear me. Also, blagenough.com is our social media platform. We have moved away from Facebook and Instagram and all that. And we now have a platform that is B1, and it's ours. We can do what we want. We can say what we want. There's over 55,000 of you already on Black Enough. And but you're only allowed in if you are pro-Black and positive, and you love Black people, and you believe in things like wealth, education, family, a good community. If that's who you are, then feel free to visit us at Black Enough. It's spelled BLAGGENUF. That's BLAGGENUF. And you can also click a button and find other members that live in your area. So it's a good way to connect with other like-minded people. So anyway, all right, so let's jump into this conversation. So Madam President, thank you very much, Lawrence, Robert, and Abdullah, and Charlie, for letting us know that you can hear us. So this divorce with Jeezy, what's going on? I thought he was happily married and going to be married for the next 800 years. What went wrong?
Yeah, I think that I don't know. Most relationships starts with a lot of passion, but when you start unlayering the reality of people, it's not that promising. So I really believe that Jeezy and Jenny got a chance to know each other a little bit more than what's on the surface, and they have come to terms with, yeah, I don't want this. Back in the day, our grandparents, used to be really committed to that thing called marriage, that thing called happily ever after. Even if happily would be seasonal, they were committed to the ever after. But now it's like we have a world and a culture of, yeah, I can just walk away from this. I don't need this anymore. I don't want this. So with that being said, it appears as if Jeezy himself is saying, nah, I'm okay with being married to this woman. Now, I will also highlight, and I want to be very clear when I say this, I don't care who wants to have a interracial relationship. To each his own. But as a Black woman, I really felt like Jeezy, Mr. Snowball Man, Mr. Snowman, he had all the sisters as his down ass bitch, but then he made an Asian woman his queen. So I was really never ever, pro, like whatever this is going on. I really felt offended. Like, Keisha and them have been by your side all this time. And all of a sudden we ain't cleaned up. All of our financials are now legal. We grown now. And this is the idea and the marriage side that we want to go into. But like I said, to each his own. That was just my thought process when I saw Jeezy in this a few years ago.
That's really interesting, Madam President. So I want to ask everybody, what do you think? I mean, how do you feel, when you see people that build a whole career off of Black culture, really connected and relating to Black people, and then even to the point where some would even say that some rappers, that rap about the trap and all that trap music, are glorifying things like drug dealing, stuff like that. And then when it's time to get married and really make a commitment and make an investment in another human being, a significant investment, an investment that isn't just an investment of where you're going to put your penis that night. It's an investment of where you're going to invest your wealth, where you're going to invest your life, where you're going to invest your trust. They pick a woman who's not black. Do you feel that that's a betrayal, or do you think that that is just whatever? Who cares? It's not a big deal. I don't know. I'm not here to judge it one way or the other. I know people that have interracial marriage. I'd never tell anybody who to marry, including members of my own family. I have members of my family who have married people who are not black. But I do think that if you are an artist, a hip hop artist, and you are a black man, and you have been sort of able to build millions of dollars in wealth. I mean, he's probably made over $100 million in his career, all from the black community, from very loyal black women. I think that there's something to be talked about with that. I wonder why that's Madam President. Why do you think that that's a sensitive conversation? Why do you think that when somebody just makes that basic statement, people say, "Oh, you just be hating. You just be hating." I don't get that. I feel like when I got married, I feel like if I had showed up saying, "Here's my wife, Ling Lu," or "Here's my wife, Becky Smith," I think black folks would have been like, "Come on, Dr. Boyce, that's some nonsense." Like, what do you think?
Well, I think that we have a very we're culturally universal, which means that everybody has, these different cultures that they feel connected to on just a personal level, professional, whatever. But I do believe that when it comes to black people, sometimes, well, most black folks are married to other black people. That's just number one. The numbers are there that most black folks marry other black folks. That's just period. But I think that love is just whether it's love or romance, is just a very sensitive space. So sometimes people get real vulnerable and get into different spaces with people that make them feel different, people outside of their norm. So I think it's, okay or healthy for a person to marry and do whatever they want to do. But like I said, when it comes to the cultural side of, my down ass bitch and my new queen, it didn't add up. That's all I'm saying. And I want people to understand that in the chat, because I know we like to get lost in words. We get lost. Sometimes we get stuck. One of the sisters like to call it low-level thinkers. Sometimes you hear one sentence and you just can't get past anything else. All I'm saying is what was being preached and then what ended up being executed in the end just did not add up.
Everybody, in case you just came in, I'm talking to Madam President, and we're talking about this interesting divorce with Jeezy, and she said some things. And if you want to know why I'm talking about it, it's because number one, this is a wealth conversation like crazy. First of all, whoever you marry is somebody who's going to get a big chunk of your wealth, whether you like it or not. And then second of all, the reason I think this is interesting is because Jeezy's wife, Jeannie Mai. I mean, is it Jeannie Mai, Jeannie Mai, Jeannie Mai? Anyway, she said something that was really interesting about her anger issues, and that Jeezy would check her. She said, I think she said she wanted Jeezy to check her. And then someone, Tiara KJ Williams, when she told me about it, she said it looks like he just checked out. He just, instead of checking her, he decided to check out. And I want to get your take on this, Madam President. Whenever I hear, I don't know, give me a yes or no if y'all think it's a red flag when a woman says, "I need my man to check me. I need him to check me." Because I can tell you, there was a time 50 years ago where a man could really check a woman, and she would respect that. She would respond to that in a certain way. Give me a yes if y'all know what I'm talking about. But now you check a woman, you're gonna get called an abuser, right? Like if I really check you. If I really am like, you need to shut your ass down right now, like stop it, right? That's almost what they want, like those crazy loud. You might know those like crazy loud women, like I need a man who can handle me, right? And if you really check her, like checking means I'm gonna remind you that I'm a man. I might raise my voice. I might get in your face a little bit. I might intimidate you with my testosterone, right? That's what some women want when they're talking about checking me. But nowadays you can't do that. That's called toxic. It's called abusive. It's called all these other things. Almost everything that's inherently masculine is seen as toxic. And next thing you know, not only are you called an abuser, but somebody might end up calling the cops on you. So what men are doing now, I believe, is they're just checking out. They say, you know what? I could check you, but I'm not trying to get mislabeled by society because you can't handle your own behavior. So I'm either gonna walk away from you once you start acting crazy, or I'm going to never engage with you in the first place. Like I think smart men, and I don't know about Jeezy, I don't know about his situation. I don't know I've never met this man, but I know I can tell you it. I'll talk about me in my own personal experience. I have worked with, I have people that still hate my guts and will say Dr. Boyce is a jerk. Dr. Boyce is that. No, 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 no. What happened was you started acting like a damn lunatic, a damn ridiculous, insane, you know, banshee monster. And I just, rather than checking you, I just said, I'm not talking to you no more. You're like, get away from me. Right. And I think maybe this is what some people feel is in play, this idea that she um acknowledges that her behavior is out of control, and almost like a game, she does this just so her man can check her. I think that's very dangerous for a man to be in a situation where he's got to check you like a child. What do you think?
No, absolutely. I think something that I thought about some time ago was people like strong people until they have to use that strength against them. So people like people who are very strong, but it's like, oh, you're gonna use the strength against me. You're gonna do that against me. And I think that goes for men and women. But I think sometimes if a woman says, I need my man to check me or something like that, that's kind of admitting that something's going on where you feel like I'm out of control sometime, and I need this person that I'm romantically involved with to check me. I believe that in love or life, we are checking each other. We are constantly not just checking each other, but checking in, and trying to, get through this thing called life in a very healthy manner. Like we shouldn't be intentionally being disruptive, intentionally being in constant disagreement. Even if we have discourse, it shouldn't be intentional. Like we can't be intentionally crazy to each other. Like that's not healthy. Everybody will be getting a divorce if that's the case. So if you know that you have certain things that you need to work on, you have to constantly be working on those things. But I will say that her husband also will know, like, oh, that's my wife, but those are some of the things that she needs to work on. She needs to work on this, because I don't believe any two people on the planet, marry because of perfection. Everybody marry for their own proper reasons, but it's not because of perfection. So if turbulence is in place and these two people want to flee, I think that's a testament that they were never really committed in the first place.
Well, you know what? By the way, this is Madam President. We're talking about Young Jeezy and his divorce. And if you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You haven't done that yet. Madam President is also an entrepreneur. So if you like Black-owned businesses and you want to check out her business, go visit her website. It's thefreedom.company, thefreedom.company. And she has a lot of amazing apparel. She's super, super creative. And her apparel is among the best out here. It's better than damn near anything I've ever seen. And so you guys can go take a look at her site. I'll share my screen so you guys can take a look. If you're into the pro-Black thing, the freedom.company is a great place to visit and sort of look at the way she acknowledges through her apparel some of the great heroes of the Black community. So anyway, so one of the things I wanted to kind of address on this, right, is you talked about commitment, and I'm gonna just tell you the truth. I don't know how many of y'all think that this is the case. I feel like commitment is kind of dead in our society. I don't. I remember a time where people really got married thinking that marriage meant you were supposed to be married for life, and now that's not true. Now it's like we're going to pretend like we're together for life until we decide that we don't want to be together no more, right? It reminds me of like an NFL contract. When they would say somebody signed a contract for $30 million, but then they get cut the next season, and the team doesn't owe them the $30 million.
Right.
I kind of feel like these contracts are they're just worthless now. Like I really think now this idea, I don't even take marriage seriously anymore, especially with celebrities, because I'm sitting here thinking, well, you know what? You say you're getting married, you say you're going to be together for life, stay together for 10 years and then talk to me. Don't invite me to your wedding, invite me to your 10-year anniversary, and then I'll believe you. And it's not making fun of anybody. I'm not, because nothing's perfect, but I feel like in our society, things have just evolved so much that maybe marriages need to be replaced with 5-year renewable contracts. What do you think about that, Madam President?
No, I think that it's kind of sad that marriage means nothing anymore. I think it means something. People, have good intentions when they decide to marry most times. But I think that the part of the marriage, the middle part, the part that requires the most work of ourselves, people just kind of give up on that. Then when you think about people in general, how many people really go above and beyond to accomplish anything when it comes to their entire life? How many people decide that I want to, run a, 25K like you and Alicia and actually do it? You two are very committed people, not just to your marriage, but to your life goals as well. So I feel like some people shouldn't even be qualified to marry because they're not really good at finishing things. They're not good at going through tough times. And so it's like, it's not even the person. These are individual characteristics that kind of show up no matter who you marry. So that's something that I believe, Dr. Watkins, that.
That's a good point. I always tell people I think it's really hard to run a marathon with a sprinter, right? Some people, they approach their relationships like sprinters. It's short, powerful, fun, exciting, etc. And when the excitement's gone, the relationship adrenaline junkies, they get bored and they move on, right? Everything's fine, but maybe they think you're boring because there is no drama. They like the drama, they like the chaos, they like the wild stuff, right? But then when you get to the point where you have a calm, peaceful, content situation, they say, okay, it's time for me to move on to something else, right?
Right.
And I think that is a disposition. It's also built on your expectation. I think that if you never really saw what it looks like for a couple to be married, 20 or 30 years or 40 years, I think it's very hard to visualize that. It's just like when I told my wife I wanted to run a marathon, I viewed it very differently from after when I really ran a marathon. You know what I mean? Like when I told her I wanted to run a marathon, in theory, I had one image of that race, me just running along and feeling strong the whole way. But then when I was really in the race and I hit mile 18 and wanted to just literally fall over and die in that moment, then I had a whole different perspective because I really went through it, and I think that's it reminds me of that Eddie Murphy movie Life. Remember Eddie and Lawrence did that movie Life?
Yeah.
And they went to prison, and it was a real exciting movie. People were kind of surprised by that movie because they thought they were going to get comedy. Well, really, they got more like dramedy. They
Right.
got a lot of very serious issues were addressed in that movie, and so they were narrating the story when they went to jail and whatever, and they got life in prison. And they said the guy said, so what happened next? Like expecting something exciting, like they escaped from prison or they got released or whatever. And he said, no, nothing. They just got old. Like that's it. They just sat in prison for 50, 60 years and got old. That's all that happened. Right? And I think that sometimes with marriage, I don't know if people really understand what it really means to do something for the rest of your life. And I say that because I remember I had a friend a long time ago who was about 35. She got married at 25, right out of
Mhm.
college, because that's what all her friends were doing. And she started having an affair.
Mm.
And I said, what happened? Why are you cheating on your husband? I said, is he? I expected some story. I said, is he abusive? She said, no, he's not abusive. I said, oh, I get it. He must have cheated on you, because that's what society tells us. Whenever a woman cheats, it's because something that the man did wrong, right? When the men cheat, it's because we just dirty little dogs. But when women cheat, it's like he was neglecting me. He was right. There's always like some sort of out that women can use. So I said, did he cheat on you? She said, no, not to my knowledge. I said, so what made you sleep with another man? She said, well, when I got married and they said we were going to be together forever, I didn't really know what forever really meant. Like I
Mhm.
really, she said 10 years later, I started thinking, oh my God, is this what forever looks like? And
Right.
she was number 35. It wasn't like she was an old lady. She done 10 years and she said, wait, you mean I got another 40, 50 years of the exact same thing I had for the last 10? Like, so when you pick somebody to get married to, that's a real heavy commitment. Like if you're really trying to for real do it, it's a heavy decision. And I don't think people think it through that well. I really don't. What do
I
you think?
don't think they think it through. Also, too, marriage and the environment of marriage require a lot of support as well. It's kind of like anything that you want to do and you want to do well, you need a support system, you need a community that also supports those goals. So you have a lot of married people that are not cultivated around other married people. It's important for married folks to be hanging around married folks, to be building around other married folks, having a community, because marriage isn't easy. And one of the things that I imagine, like you shared with me one time in my life, you said that, we have educators for everything. We have people to assist us, and when we want to be for counseling, for whatever you want to be in college. But what about when you want to be married 50 years? You need help in that area too. You need help. We need professional marriage folks, old school, back in the day. Some folks use those voodoo dolls and all of that. So y'all used to go over to somebody's house, grandmama, the third grandmother generation, and say, y'all two need to stay together. And here's what we're going to do. We need plans in place.
Yes.
What keeps people from, another challenge in marriage is a lot of times divorce is rooted in two things: infidelity and finances. Those are the two things that draw people apart. So you got somebody who may not have sexual discipline. We need to help them with that. Are you going to be walking away every time somebody, looking at somebody else? We got to fix those things in our community. And this is something that I don't get a chance to say too frequently. But if we had a community of people that actually respected and understood and valued marriage, men wouldn't even have other women to cheat with, and vice versa, because we will respect marriage as a group of people. It wouldn't be an individual thing, right? So it's like when somebody want to drink and drive, you say, hey man, you can't drink and drive. It's dangerous to do that. And that's the same way we can be when it comes to being ethical in marriage, moral in marriage. We can hold each other accountable to those ethics if we were interested in group economics, group mobility. But we like to do everything on an individual basis. So that's the one thing about the Black community is I. But Malcolm says, even illness, when you put we in it, wellness, it's wellness. So keep that in mind. Even illness turns into wellness when you replace the I with we. So we should always keep that in mind as a community.
That's very heavy. Yeah. Well, everybody, in case you just came in, I'm talking with the one and only Madam President, and we were discussing Jeezy's divorce and just the expense, how expensive divorce is, as well as this idea of checking, having to be the woman that has to be checked. And I think that as Black men, I think it's very dangerous to deal with somebody that has to be checked. If y'all could do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, the Dr. Boyce Breakdown is on Spotify and on Apple. So if you want to find this podcast on Spotify or Apple, just look up my name on Spotify or Apple. Also, just a reminder, October 20th, we're having the All Black National Convention in Atlanta. And we have over 40-something speakers and experts and all kinds of people together for the sole purpose of figuring out and solving problems in the Black community. But it's also a great place to have fun. The B1 Ball is a blast. Also, there are tons of ways to network with other like-minded people. So if you'd like to join us in Atlanta, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. The tickets are running out. We're almost sold out. So the convention is going to be in less than a month. So if you'd like to join us, go to allblacknationalconvention.com. Madam President, are you going to be able to make the convention this year?
Well, it's my objective to be at the convention this year. I remember sharing with you that my uncle is getting married.
Right.
22nd. So that would be the only, if I happen to go to that wedding. Speaking of marriages and weddings, that was the only reason that I'm not at the convention. But I am at the convention wholeheartedly. Just physically being present is in question at this particular time.
What'd you think about the convention? You've been, how many have you been to?
I've been to a lot of the conventions, at least two. The last one I went to was the one in Florida. It was absolutely wonderful. Also, too, let me just say that if you are wondering why you should come to the convention, let me tell you that you should come to the convention for the sake of Black folks really having one common agenda, and that is empowerment and betterment, education, and a lot of Black love going around. I got a lot of information. I mean, of course, you got all your friends who come through, all your people. You had the Muhammad, Queen Afua, different people that came through during that convention. But the rejuvenation, if you're a Black business owner and you need to get around an environment of other people who are upward mobile in their entrepreneurship bag, you will want to be here for that purpose. I mean, I lived off the convention for at least probably another 3 months when
Wow.
when I came in when we did it in Florida. 3 months later, I was still like, man, I went to this convention. Black folks doing great things. It's some Black folks doing great things. You know how some people be like, oh snap, Black people doing great things, and nobody was it wasn't about entertainment only. This was about education and empowerment. So it was one of the best.
Yeah, and we did have a lot of fun, but it was like even the entertainment fit in with the whole B1 objective. Like we had Victory Boyd who signed with Rock Nation. I just saw her the other day on a commercial for, I don't know if it was Verizon or I literally am watching Amazon Prime, and they had her on there singing, right? So Victory and her family, they're doing amazing things, but they're B1, and they came in, they performed, and they were like, we love this because we rarely get to perform in front of our people. And everybody was on their feet, jumping up and they're going crazy because they were so talented. But it's like, it doesn't. So what I think is that I think we have to understand that being pro-Black does not have to be serious and boring all the time. You can have fun and have entertainment, like Akila Honda. I'd put her up against any of the rappers. I put her right up to Cardi and Megan and all the great rappers. The difference is she ain't leading with her booty first. She's leading with her brain first. She's leading with her beauty first as a Black woman. She's leading with motherhood first. She's leading with family first. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with Black people just saying, like, man, we love ourselves. We really want to be better. We ain't got to be ratchet. We ain't got to be loud. We ain't got to be hood all the time. Nothing wrong with the hood, but my Lord, this unhealthy culture. It was nice to be around people where the energy, even the camera people, there were contractors we hired who knew nothing about the convention, and they got there and they were like, I've never been in a place like this. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, a place where all the Black people together and everything's so positive. It's like,
Right.
so think about this. We've associated Blackness with negativity or negativity. We really think that if you get enough Black people together, it's about to go down. It's got to be about some buffoonery or some fighting or some drama. And the ABC does not have that. We've done it many, many years, and I just thank all the great people that have come. We've had artists there. Killer Mike came to the very first one, and David Banner. Also, we have high level business people. Larry Miller, who's the chairman of the board at the Air Jordan brand, he was there last year. He's literally responsible for building Michael Jordan's company into this $4 billion a year empire, right? So you had the smartest and the best of the brightest. You had entertainers. You had small business owners. You had just wives and husbands that wanted to just build strong families and just network. It's an amazing experience. So anyway, the URL is allblacknationalconvention.com. So if you'd like to join us, feel free to come on out. And even Jeezy's invited, and he can bring his ex-wife if he wants to. That's okay, because we don't discriminate. But all right, so anyway, so let's get back to that topic then. So one thing I was thinking about too, Chanel, Madam President, is that it seems to me that when you're talking about marriage in a celebrity marriage, money can't be ignored. Now, I don't know what Jeezy's situation is with his prenup and all that, but I imagine the next headline is going to be Jeezy is paying his ex-wife, X amount of thousands of dollars per month in alimony or child support or whatever, because I think they had a baby. Well, they ain't been married that long. Been married 2 years. They had a baby right afterward, and that's going to be a factor. A lot of people seem to be afraid of marriage because of the financial repercussions. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of feel like I know that legally marriage, we have the marriage, the paperwork bonding the marriage, but I think the child creates the commitment anyway. So when the child is in place, even before you're married, I mean, you're pretty much locked in for the next 18 plus years. And then really you're locked in for a lifetime. If you are if you are a good parent, then you locked in for the rest of this child's life. That means that you're always going to have a relationship with the mother of your child. So with that being said, I believe he was already committed they were already committed with the child, no matter if they got married or not. But I also believe too, he signed a prenup. They had a prenup in place. So I don't know. And he is the one that filed for the divorce. So this could be very amicable. They could be okay with how things pan out. Also, too, I also read before we got on that she may be contesting the divorce, recommending that
Yeah.
they go through additional steps of counseling and things of that nature. This is her second marriage, if I'm not mistaken. So um, I don't know how many times, but I actually, how sometimes some people feel like, oh, she get married all the time. I think it's okay for a person to get married as much as they want to get married. You know why? Even if they haven't mastered being married, I think that it's healthy to have the intentionality behind what they're doing. They're intentional. Like some people like to date for 15 years. Well, how long we gonna date? Well, what, going on? What's this? So I do believe that when people are being intentional about their life, they kind of put marriage on the table very frequently. Where some people don't have that same, mindset. They date for many, many years and they don't marry, which I believe that it's easier to walk away. When you put marriage in place, things get a little bit more complicated. But I think it also lets you know that when I'm dealing with a person and they say, oh, I want to be married, they're being intentional versus a person who does not.
Mm. Well, you know what? I think if anybody wants to know the benefits of marriage versus dating, first off, I would start with reminding everybody that that when you talk about legal issues, remember marriage is a legal contract, and for some people that makes them very nervous. But for some people, you should be nervous because you don't have a contract, right? You have this person that is basically saying, "I'm gonna be there for you," but there's literally nothing stopping them from moving out and abandoning you forever tomorrow. There's nothing that's going to slow down that process. And what I notice is that the difference between being married versus say having a girlfriend or somebody having a boyfriend is that I've had relationships when I was younger where we were a happy couple on Tuesday and completely broken up forever on Thursday. That's happened. Sometimes it's because of me, sometimes it's because of her. But I lived my life before I married my wife. I had a life before my wife. And now the difference though is that when you're married, you get pissed off. It's Tuesday, you're a happy couple, you get pissed off, you want to break up Thursday, but then you have a whole long laundry list of things that you have to do for the breakup to be official. You like, damn, I gotta go call a lawyer, pay a couple grand, pay probably 5,000 on a retainer, right? Because lawyers don't work for free. I gotta move all my stuff. I gotta tell the whole family. I gotta break it to the kids, right? There's a process, right? And that process, what that process does in economics, we call that a friction, a market friction. And
Mhm.
frictions are things that make it harder for the process to happen, right? It just makes it stretches it out. And when you have those frictions, that reduces the likelihood that you're going to get to the finish line. That's why Amazon, one of the first things Amazon patented that helped them make billions of dollars is they got a patent on the one click purchase process.
Mhm.
So Amazon to this day, I don't know if any other company can have a one click purchase on their website because Amazon got a patent on the technology. Well, the reason they got that patent is because they wanted to minimize the frictions. They wanted you to be able to look and say, "Oh, I need some toilet paper." Whoop, boom, you got toilet paper coming to your house,
Right.
right? Instead of being like, okay, let me get my credit card, let me go in here and do that, let me go to the website, put in my information, right? They're like, no, we got your credit card, we got your address, we got all the information. Just hit the button, and the toilet paper will be on its way, right? They're minimizing friction, so marriage creates a natural friction that slows down your breakup process. And because here's the thing, if something real happens, like real life stuff eventually happens in your life, somebody goes to the hospital, whatever, and you go to the hospital and you say, I want to come in and see my man. And they're like, okay, are you his wife? Well, no, but okay, well, are you his sister? No, but well, what are you? Well, I'm his ride or die chick. And they going down the list. The little white lady is like, I'm sorry, we don't have ride or die chicks on the visitation list.
Right.
And then when it's really bad, if he already has a wife or
Mhm.
even an ex-wife, sometimes she'll move ahead of you when it comes to inheriting his assets. I've seen people have all their estate inherited by an ex because they didn't fill out the proper forms to put their new girlfriend or new boyfriend in a position to get those assets. Martin Luther King had allegedly had a side chick. Like surprise, surprise. But I don't think that's out of the bag. It doesn't take anything away from his legacy. He was an amazing man, but he's also a famous man, and he was a man who was subject to the same temptations that might affect a lot of men in his position. Well, he had this lady that he dated, and she was there when he got shot. A lot of people don't know that. How many of y'all knew that? Did y'all know that? This is her story, right? So I'm telling the story based on what she said because she came on my podcast. I interviewed her because she lived in Kentucky. I don't know if you know that. Just like you and I were from Kentucky. Yeah, she lived in Kentucky. And so what she said, she was like over 90 something years old. And so she said that when he got shot, she was obviously distraught, like any woman would be if her man just got shot and he's on his way to the hospital. She wanted to climb in the ambulance and go to the hospital with him. And they were like, you can't go because he got one wife. You know, that's you know the lady that's at home. You're not his wife. You can't go. So she was so devastated by that literally 60 years later, she was still telling the story. Coretta, like literally, she was still like, Coretta was not the one he loved the most. I was the one that was with him. Now, again, this is her story, right? So I'm not. So if you disagree or if some of it's not true, like don't get mad at me. This is what the lady said. I'm repeating what she said. So I'm saying that this is kind of the thing I think we forget about. Like when somebody, I think the basic idea is to say, like when people say, like me being with you is just the same as us being married, or marriage ain't nothing but a piece of paper. That's some old bullshit. Marriage is so much more than a piece of paper. Or if it is a piece of paper, it's a very important piece of paper.
Exactly. Well, I find, first of all, I just want to say, if you have some bad dreams, that's Coretta coming for you tonight.
I know, right? I know. I mean, I know it's a touchy story. But people can look it up. She lived in Kentucky, and I think she died in her 90s, and she died of a broken heart, or she had a broken heart when she died. Because I could tell this lady, she talked about it like it was yesterday. That's what made me so sad.
You know what's so crazy is that's why I don't recommend being a hardcore side chick, because that's the kind of ending that you have. People feel like no matter who it is, even good old Dr. King, you can't have what's not yours. So don't be falling in love. I think my grandma used to say, don't be falling in love with somebody else's man. That's number one. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care how old you are, what you look like, what you got. If that's somebody else's, you need to mind your business, because it does not pan out very well in the end for those who kind of live that side chick lifestyle. All right. So all that to say that, I mean, marriage is a major commitment, period, point blank. And we got to kind of be on the same page for a very long time in order for it to work. Of course, people change. That's the biggest thing about marriage. The biggest thing about Cupid being youthful and blind is that people change. And the thing that marriage is supposed to have been over the past is, will we go through these changes together? Social media, somebody mentioned social media. Yes, social media has made a lot of things more complicated. It has taken away the middle of things. Like I see people, I was just telling a friend of mine that a friend that I knew was married. They had a big wedding. It was all on Essence magazine. 15 years later, they're divorced. So all that to say that it's a constant. It's a constant work. It's not work sometimes. It's a constant work, which I believe that we forget about. Social media doesn't. Also, I think Michelle Obama said, and I really agree with her. She said, me and Barack Obama, we've been married 30, I think she said 20 or 30 years. I can't remember the number, but she said, even if we had 10 bad years and 20 good, I'll take those odds. That means that, unfortunately, I know somebody told you that you're supposed to be happy every single day in marriage, but guess what? That is not true. And you need to get it out your head that you're supposed to be happy every single day just because you're married. Now, I'm not saying that you're supposed to be miserable, no, but the idea that somebody else is responsible for your happiness is outdated. I need people to understand that in order to carry out something like marriage, you got to be mature. We can't be acting like infants and babies when it comes to being emotionally and mentally mature and having partnership. It requires a level of maturity that some people don't want to tap into. And I like to say this, in a lot of Black households, a lot of Black folks ain't grew up in 2-parent households. I ain't saying some people didn't. I'm just saying a lot of us didn't. So we have to understand even further than other people that our level of working through conflict may require more than other people, other cultures, because we're doing something that we have never seen be done. So that's going to make it harder, more challenging for us, but it is possible. But if you're going to think that you want to start over every chance you get, keep starting over. I guarantee you, just like that lady at 90-some years old, you're going to be dying alone. I'm sorry, sounded like Kevin Samuels, but that's what I think is happening, you know.
Well, by the way, I'm speaking with Madam President, and we're talking about the divorce with young Jeezy and Jeannie Mai, and we're also talking about really the bigger idea of marriage, particularly from an economic standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, etc. That's why we're talking about it. It's not we're not here to gossip about celebrities. I wish Jeannie and Jeezy the best. I don't know them. I don't, their life is their life, but I do think that this is interesting because everyone's kind of talking about this, and I really think, I think there's so much to learn here. By the way, if you could, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share. Make sure you subscribe. You can follow Madam President at One Madam President. Also, she's hosting the Madam President show, which is going to be on the Fly Nubian Queen Network at flynubianqueentv.com. So I'll provide you guys a link so you can check out Madam President. She's really good at what she does, and so one of the things that that comes to mind, when I think about this is, I looked up as you were speaking. You made me think about that, like where people's backgrounds. Like a lot of our choices and relationships are heavily shaped by what we saw as kids. And when you look up Jeezy's background, you find that Jeezy, like the majority of Black people, did not have two parents in the house. His mama and his daddy parted ways. He went to Atlanta when he was young and was living with different relatives because his parents were separated. Jeannie, I did not see any evidence that her parents broke up. I think her father was Chinese, her mother was Vietnamese, and they stayed married. And when you read about why they got a divorce, a lot of it was driven by their differences in expectations and family values. And I wonder if there was a disconnect there, because I'm gonna just tell you like this. I'm just going to flat out say it directly. Rap culture ain't really built for marriage and family. I mean, if you really look at hip hop culture, I'm talking about, like the trap music and all that. I'm not saying it's all bad. I like rappers. This is why I talk about it, because I love hip hop so much. That's why I talk about it. But give me a yes if you understand where I'm coming from. A lot of the values that are promoted in that music are not marriage and family values. They don't rap like stay home with your wife, don't cheat on your wife, like love your kids, save your money, build your wealth, educate yourself. You got to educate yourself. They ain't rapping like that. They rapping about having hoes in every area code, right? Shout out to Jay-Z and Dame for getting that whole culture started, right? I got hoes, in different area codes. Remember that? And then and there was another rapper that rapped about all the women he had around the world, right? And then you can go into other things, right? We've talked about this, the complete financial irresponsibility. Good luck staying married when you're wasting all the money and throwing it all away. But Jeannie knew she was signing up for this. If Jeezy's living anything similar, any lifestyle that is somewhat consistent with the what he's been rapping about, then that does not fit with marriage and family. What else do rappers rap about? Violence. You make me mad, I'm not gonna sit down. They don't rap and say, hey, if you have a problem with a brother, sit down and talk it out. Talk it out. No, it's like, shoot that nigga, kill that nut, right? It's always violence. irresponsible behavior, sexual irresponsibility, financial irresponsibility, complete ignorance, right? And then you throw in some drugs, popping bottles, all that. Ain't none of that. And I know some of y'all might get mad, but I'm sorry. I'm not trying to preach at you, but I'm just trying to tell you what in the hell, what in the fuck does that have to do with having a stable family? That does none of those behaviors contribute to a stable family. You know, I mean, if I was running around this house punching people out when they piss me off, carrying a bottle of liquor in one hand and some crack in the other, you know, like and getting high and drunk every day and throwing away the money, my wife would be married to me for about 10 minutes. Now, I'm not saying Jeezy does all that. I'm not saying he does that, but there's a culture, and music affects how you view the world. Music affects your vibration. People act like it don't matter, but man, music affects you in ways you don't even know. That's why the community acts so damn crazy. It's because they're constantly reinforcing the very worst of us as opposed to encouraging us to become the best of ourselves. Right. I'm really I'm be honest with you. When they got married, I kind of just, I kind of think it's a joke.
Mhm.
It's like what you're saying is, and people evolve, right? People change. Like Jay-Z and Beyonce have been married for years, and God bless them, but it's like I kind of chuckle because I'm like, so what you're really trying to tell me is that you're literally trying to now live a lifestyle that's completely different from the lifestyle you've been promoting for the last 20 years. I don't see that happening. That would be as logical as me popping out and saying I'm about to go and pimp some hoes, sell some dope, and become a gangbanger tomorrow. And I've been Dr. Boyce 20 years, but now I want to be, street nigga Boyce. Like I don't think that's consistent, right? And it's not, and it wouldn't be credible. Y'all would laugh if I said that was the lifestyle I was trying to pursue. What do
Right.
you think?
No, I totally agree. Hip hop culture does not promote a life of marriage. It doesn't promote a lot of life of ease at all in general. But I do believe that, and I'm not really the type to play devil's advocate. I don't really like to be in the devil's playground. But I will say this, that I never grew up in, like, I like to say I grew up in a 6-parent household. I had my mama, my grandmama, my grandfather, my aunties, my uncles. It just wasn't two folks, it was a lot of folks. So I grew up in that environment. But it doesn't mean that I don't desire to have something different than what I grew up in. So I will say that although the speech of people in hip hop could not reflect maybe what their heart desire is, because they did grow up in rough environments. So we grew up in these rough environments. You grow up, folks shooting. You grow up, and the fellas prone to call the women the hoes and the bees. So it's like, it's honestly, you inherit that. But there's something about every Black person who kind of pulled themselves out of poverty, and that is they desire something more. They wanted
Mhm.
something more. So I believe that even in effort of being married, it's an example that I may not know how to do this, but I want this. I want to try this, and I think everybody has a right to that.
Well, I think so too, and I do agree 100%. I think that it's almost like when I tell people this is the platform for intelligent Black people. I'm not saying that you have to be intelligent when you get here.
Right.
I'm just saying you have to value intelligence.
Mm,
Like I think if you could be as ignorant as the day is long, but if you say I'm ignorant, I live in the land of ignorance, and I want to get to the land of intelligence, then that works for us because we're not going to leave the land of intelligence to go to the land of ignorance.
right.
We're not gonna change who we are. But if you want to change who you are or change how you view the world, or you want to have a different life, then I respect that, right? Because some people grow up in the middle of chaos, and that makes them crave peace more than anybody else. They don't want chaos because they've seen it up close. So they grew up in a broken family. They're like, no, I want my family to stay together because I know how painful it is to have a broken family. I respect that immensely. I grew up poor, so I want to be wealthy and financially secure because I know what poverty feels like. Right? I think all that's important, and I don't know which side of the spectrum Jeezy would be on, or Jeannie Mai, and I'm not here to speculate on that. But I will say that there are people though who unfortunately have been trained to glorify the ignorance and glorify the things that create nothing but pain and trauma and unhappiness and negative outcomes. When I went down that list of everything, some of the rappers rap about, ain't nothing about being a snowman. You know what that means. I'm a snowman, right? There's nothing about glorifying the snowman culture that leads to anything other than death or prison. Why would you want millions of young black boys, particularly the boys, the girls too? Because the girls end up dating the boys. And remember, a lot of women get killed over drugs, just like the men do. They in the car with their boyfriend, somebody shoots them in the head because they sit next to the wrong guy, or they took the dope charge, for somebody and got 50 years in prison. There's women in prison like that, by the way, everybody. Y'all should understand that. And I just think that it's our obligation as intelligent black people to warn young people about the pitfalls that lie ahead. I don't know why that is seen as abnormal or extreme. We should love our children and say, look, if you get hooked on drugs at 17, it's going to be a bad road for you. If you don't get an education while you're young, terrible things are going to happen. If you are sexually irresponsible, you're going to have some crazy outcomes: child support, STDs, unwanted pregnancies, all these things. You're going to traumatize your kids. You date the wrong person, your children are going to hate you, right? Just whatever, right? Because their daddy ain't shit, and so they're going to be like, "Mama, why'd you pick this dude to have kids with?" And then mama might, mom could be like, "Well, my coochie pink, my booty hole brown, and I was just hot that day. I just really wanted, I mean, really, that's and so I just really think we owe our children, we just owe it to our kids to do better, to try to do better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't see anything wrong with saying that. I don't know why. I get pushback. I get some people that get mad at me for saying that. And I'm like, why are you angry at me when I just don't want pain? I don't want black people suffering.
Right. Well, that's because, those people just don't have the ability to think beyond, just very low level surface thinkers. Anytime you have critique and criticism, it doesn't feel well. I remember when I was a child and my mother says, you need to do this. Of course, it felt very much like uncomfortable. It wasn't comfortable because remember, when you're a child and a grown person is telling you something to do for your own good, you can't see it because you're not mentally developed. So anytime you see somebody on the internet giving you pushback about having standards so that black people can suffer less in a world that's committed to their suffering, yes, black people need to be intentional about making decisions that will reduce the level of suffering. Just at minimum, just do what you can to reduce the level of suffering. But if we're just going to be okay with every bad decision that we make as a collective, then what the hell is wrong with us as a group of people? We should not be okay with any poor decision making. Yeah, so Dr. Watkins, yes, please continue to let young men know that you do this is going to send you to jail. Let young women know, your booty hole brown, nobody needs to know. Don't nobody care. We have to continue to do that part. Because you know what I also understand too? That having the mindset to think is sometimes it hurts. You ever go somewhere, you be like, damn, this ain't a good deal. You be like, they invited me. Like, have you ever been to a car salesman? And when you go to the car dealership, you think you got to get a really nice car. And then they come to you and say, well, we looked at you and guess what? We're going to have to give you 18% plus interest on this car. Now this car is expensive as hell. You like, I really like this car. And you can't see past just getting to your next destination. You can't even see the kind of financial turmoil the car is going to put you in. You can't see any of it because all you can see is I'm going to get the keys. So all that to say that people who are able to think extensively, sometimes it's a little painful, excruciating, having the mindset to go so far in your thinking. Everybody else just wants you to drive. Just meet me outside. Just drive. Just ride the highway with me. But no, there's a cost to things. There is a cause and effect to things. And I think that we have to encourage ourselves to continue to think deeply.
Everybody, in case you just came in, I'm talking with Madam President. We're talking about Jeezy's divorce and the financial implications and just cultural understanding of relationships in the Black community. Do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You can follow Madam President on Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else. by going to at one Madam President, president with a Z, it's spelled with a Z, Madam President with a Z. And also, my website is boycewatkins.com. And so if you'd like to get a copy of my new book, it's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can go to boycewatkins.com and take a look there. Also, there's a social media platform that we have that is off of Facebook that is allows for freedom of speech and allows you to connect with other B1 people. So we have over 50,000 of you join us at Blagg Enough, BLAGGENUF, blaggenough.com. Make sure you fill out the little questionnaire, though, because we are not letting everybody in. Anybody who acts a fool or anybody who brings ignorance, we eliminate them from the platforms. But if you are pro-Black, pro-family, pro-Black love, and you want to see Black people solving problems and connecting, just go to blaggenough.com. That's BLAGGENUF.com. Now, I want to bring up this last point that was asked, that somebody asked me in the chat. They asked me about Lizzo and the Lizzo situation and and what I think about that. And now the Lizzo situation is interesting because I don't know if y'all know this or not, but she actually just got hit with another lawsuit. So Lizzo's being sued. It says here on thehill.com, Lizzo's facing another lawsuit from one of her former employees, accusing the special singer of condoning, quote, unsafe, sexually charged workplace culture on tour. Asha Daniels, I don't know if Asha Daniels, Asha sounds like she could be Black, who designed the wardrobe for Lizzo's dancers, accused the entertainer, along with Lizzo's production company and members of her management team, of creating an environment that allowed for shocking and racist behavior while on tour last February. The lawsuit filed Thursday in Los Angeles County Superior Court said that Daniels experienced, quote, degradation, forced physical labor, denial of medical care, sexual harassment, and racial harassment while on tour earlier this year with Lizzo, who was born Melissa Jefferson. Quote, almost immediately, the plaintiff was introduced to the culture of racism and bullying on Lizzo's tour, the lawsuit alleged, saying that dancers were forced to change in and out of their clothing in small, tight changing areas during the shows with little to no privacy whatsoever, while crew members, who were primarily white males, would lewdly gawk, sneer, and giggle while watching the dancers rush through their outfit changes, end quote. The lawsuit alleged that Daniels was forced to hear racist and fat-phobic comments from Amanda Nomura, who is identified as a supervising agent for Lizzo's production company, and faced threats of retaliation. And this is after, and let me just read this last paragraph because I think it's interesting. It said the complaint comes less than 2 months after 3 of Lizzo's former dancers sued the 35-year-old star, saying they were, quote, exposed to an overtly sexual atmosphere that permeated their workplace while on tour. Daniels is being represented by the same legal team, West Coast Trial Lawyers, aka the people who about ready to get paid, as the trio of dancers. So what are your thoughts on this, Madam President?
Well, if I can be honest, I haven't researched the latest, but I do remember the last incident that 3 of the other women kind of came forward and said there was a hostile work environment. There was a lot of, I personally believe, because I work in production, I work in TV and film, and I know that one of the things that I've experienced personally is this isn't always a space of professionalism. This isn't always a space of rules and bylaws. This is not always a space of policy being implemented all the time. It's a very much high intensity, dream oriented environment, which means like, hell yeah, y'all gonna get changed on the bus. Come on, let's go. I don't know if everything that's being stated is true. I don't just believe women because they said it. I don't know exactly what is true, but I also hope that it isn't true. I don't know if it's true or not. I hope that it isn't true. But I do know that everybody have experienced some form of, especially Black folk, have experienced some form of corporate trauma. That's something that I create myself, a course on corporate trauma. But they experience corporate trauma, always having to go above and beyond, always being forced to do something within the means in which they want to, just not having even the intellect to self, to advocate for self. Not everybody knows how to say no, but everybody needs to learn how to say no. No matter if you're working for Lizzo, no matter if you're working for Barack Obama, if you're working for Harvey Weinstein, you have to learn how to say, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that. Unfortunately, that's beyond my expertise. Get somebody else to do it. In other words, you got to figure out how to say that, because I can't keep on blaming Lizzo's work environment as if most people don't have the choice. We do have choice. Now, some work environments are very toxic. It is very unhealthy, and it's very racist. It's a very, misogynistic. It's all types of stuff that's happening in workplace environments. But when it comes to just choice and sexual things, like I just really believe that I just don't know what is the truth in this matter. So I don't feel 100% comfortable blaming Lizzo and her team yet, because I don't know what's the truth.
Well, you know what I think is that with Lizzo, as you know, there was, I had the controversy with Lizzo, and it wasn't because I dislike her. It wasn't, and of course, because we live in this culture where if you say anything that that can be perceived as being critical, people think you be hating. That's you be hating. Why you be hating? No, and wasn't nobody hating. I was actually making a point that is 100% accurate. I said that Lizzo is popular, unfortunately, because we do have an obesity epidemic in America. We have corporations that are encouraged by the government to feed us the worst food imaginable. That's why your grandma and your auntie and your uncle and your cousin are dying from cancer. And we think obesity is cool because now we label it as body positivity. And I felt bad for Lizzo because I feel like she's super talented. She's pretty. She can sing, all these other things. But I don't like the buffoonery. My wife and I did an extensive breakdown and an analysis. My wife is a strong representative for women in the sense of, really advocating. And she talked about the racial stereotypes that have been thrust on Black women since the beginning of time. She talked about the mammy stereotype of the Aunt Jemima, the Jezebel stereotype of the Black woman being the outlandish hoe, or whatever, right? And how these stereotypes feed into modern music and modern hip hop. And so my beef wasn't so much with Lizzo, it was with the record label that forces her to do things I think that degrade her talent. If she were white and she were Adele and just a big woman who could sing, she could go up on stage and just sing. If she were Taylor Swift don't do no twerking. Taylor Swift ain't raunchy. She ain't pretending to suck penises on stage. All these other crazy things you see from the Cardis and the Megans or whatever. Taylor just gets up there and performs and makes $1 billion. Ain't nobody gonna sue Taylor Swift for some of the stuff that Lizzo's being sued for right now. Lizzo, her environment, her work environment that she had ended up having to promote was one that was a sexual harassment lawsuit waiting to happen. It was a sexual harassment lawsuit waiting to happen. Why? Well, because if your whole brand is built around being as sexually outlandish as you can possibly be, all that has to happen is for one person to say, I did it, but I didn't really want to do it. The only reason I did it was because the boss made me do it. And Lizzo is the boss. So now Lizzo, unfortunately, is being eaten by the same group of people that she was allegedly empowering. I think that she was a person that I think she is still a person that seemed, at least on some level, like she wanted to create opportunities for other women. I got that point. And again, I want to make it clear, I was never criticizing Lizzo, but media loves to shape narratives in ways that are degrading to Black men and Black women. They love to create gender wars with Black men and women. So they labeled it as Black man attacks Black woman because she's promoting body positivity. And I said, I wasn't attacking nobody. What you're doing is you're defending what she's doing now because you want to use her. And then when you get done with her, you're going to chew her up and spit her out like you do every other Black person that you manipulate in entertainment. Now look at Lizzo now. Look at where she's at now. It's no, and I've seen it 1,000 times. Bobby Shmurda, the rapper who was standing on the table dancing like a little monkey in front of all these executives at the record label. Next thing you know, 2 years later, Bobby Shmurda is on his way to prison. And ain't none of them people at Epic Records that watched him standing on that table dancing, did not one of those people go to bail him out when he went to jail. I'm the guy that would have bailed him out if I could, or would have went to visit him in jail, or called him and said, hey, man, how you doing? Keep your head up. You're going to be all right. We got people like that in the community. And what happens is when entertainment gets a hold of them, they use them up. And then when everything falls apart, there are people on the outside who are like, I would have helped you. Like, look at R. Kelly. R. Kelly 25 years ago, there were black people in the community who care about black women. They want to protect black girls, but they also care about black men who have mental illness like R. Kelly did. He should have got help. He should have got therapy 25 years ago. But instead of getting therapy, they just gave him more money, more drugs, more fame, and more power. And they got him comfortable. And now this man's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. When really what should have happened with R. Kelly back in 1999 is somebody who loved him should have forced him to sit down with Louis Farrakhan and a therapist and get through your issues. If you don't get through this shit that you're doing right now and the person you're becoming, they're going to eventually play the rewind button and label you in a way that is going to mark you for life. They're going to destroy you. These same people that are empowering you, they do it all the time in Hollywood. They love to suck you into stuff just so they can have something to hold over your head to control you. This is a common game. Go ahead. I'm done.
No, I don't think I have anything to say beyond what you've said. You know, you made some great points when it came to the circumstance with Lizzo and just what's being painted. But I always like to challenge you on that body positivity part. It's fat black people have always been in place. Fat white people, America is very fat. You know, in general, America is more fat than other countries from what we've been able to experience. And I do believe that the body positivity, from what my understanding is, it's always been a space of saying, you know, I'm improving where I am, but I'm also going to be okay with where I am too. Because the concept and the construct is you got women who was walking the runway, anorexic, they wasn't eating, they was eating an apple, throwing up behind it. So there was all you know, these challenges that came with trying to fit an American standard. This is why I do not allow America to have any standards for me. I do not let this country tell me what is beautiful and what is not. I do not let this country tell me what is healthy and what is not. And I also believe that some people give Lizzo hell about, you know, like you just made a point, and it's a good point. They tried to act like Lizzo is the FDA. She's not the FDA. She is not approving sugar all over the country. She's not that, but they'll take Lizzo's picture and want to use her as like the sugar industry. The woman ain't telling folks to eat cake and pie all day. And I will give her the credit that's necessary is she's an active woman. I don't know many people who can twerk, flute, and dance at the same time on a stage, you know, and not be out of breath every 2 seconds at her size. So I will say that I'm not trying to be like, oh, Lizzo is this perfect woman. She's done everything right. No, I'm just saying that there are some components to her that I believe that some people haven't really considered. And that's why I'm here to bring those components to the forefront. I also like to say that when you have an environment, I also like to say that we should be selecting our own celebrities in the first place. We can't use supremacy should not be the space that keep choosing who's going to be the celebrity, who's going to be next, who's going to be on top, who's going to be number one. We supposed to be doing that, because if we were doing it, Akilah in 100, she'll be number one. She'll be on top. She'll have a stadium of 50,000 people. But since we're not, we're always responding to the bigger mainstream environment. And I believe that's the issue. If we were responsible as a group, as a collective, then like you said, R. Kelly would have got the help that was necessary 30, 40 years ago. And not to mention, if we were even better than that 40 years ago, then R. Kelly would have had a father in the household. He wouldn't have never had sexual molestation. He would have learned how to read, because if we start correlating intellect and choices with literacy, we'll find out that folks who can't read make some extremely poor choices because they are not psychologically fully developed. We got issues, Dr. Watkins.
Well, we definitely do, and to your point, you're 100% right. I think with Lizzo, I don't think. I mean, I there's no way I could ever dislike over a person for being overweight, because I've been overweight most of my life, you know, and my wife, the way but I think that there's a difference between saying that we love you, even no matter what size you are, versus saying the size you are now is great. Keep it up, right? My wife didn't do that. My wife said, "I love you no matter what size you are, but if you don't do something about your health, it's going to have bad consequences." You get in your 40s and 50s, and that's when the heart attacks and strokes and diabetes and everything else start kicking in. And I think that it's one of those things where, when you have the pandemic and they were telling Black people, we need you all to go get this shot because you're the least healthy in our society. The problem with that statement was that you've known Black people were the least healthy in our society, but you didn't start saying anything about it until it economically benefited you, in a way that is highly questionable, right? And so I think that, but to your point also, though, we do have a responsibility to promote like the artists that are really doing great things for the community. And there's Akilah Nihanda right there. Her website is akilasworld.com. It's spelled Akilah. And she is one of the baddest rappers out here. She is every bit as good. I put her pound for pound against Megan Thee Stallion and anybody else. She's right there in Houston. She doesn't say anything negative about these other artists, but she does encourage Black women to elevate their game. And her website is akilasworld.com, Akilah. So maybe that's one thing we could consciously do is mention Akilah, because I think she's actually on tour right now. I know she was in Chicago, and I know that she's going to be in New York soon. In fact, I want to find out the date, because if I can make it, I'd like to go, because I think that she's phenomenal. So ultimately, but you are right, though. I think that I think that we do have a lot of problems, a lot of issues. I think one of our biggest challenges is that there are people who make a lot of money by promoting the absolute worst of our culture, promoting us as walking stereotypes. And people love that because they view us in that way, right? They can't make money promoting Black people as the best doctors and lawyers out here because they don't believe it. It's not believable to them. They can't promote Black people as the best engineers or whatever, or the best parents, because nobody believes that. But when they promote Black people as thugs, as hoochie mamas, or as athletes or entertainers or comedians, oh, that does well. That makes millions of dollars, because it's like, oh yeah, of course, that's what those people do, right? And so, or babies mamas. I see somebody wrote babies mamas in the chat, right? So I kind of think that we have to challenge that a little bit, because remember, that's what Hitler did to the Jews. He used media to promote them as undesirables, as people that were destroying society, that had no values, like had very unhealthy values. And so when he decided to try to eliminate them from the earth, everyone was okay with that. And so when Biden wanted to eliminate Black men from society by building that, tons of prisons around the country, that he would never put his own drug addicted son in any of these prisons, but he'll put your son in there. A lot of people were okay with that. They were like, yeah, of course, those people need to be locked up. I mean, they're smoking crack and they're selling crack and all that, and that's just, so that's pretty much what they did to us. So I think we have to be real careful about sort of letting these stereotypes sort of run rampant, because media is a very dangerous tool. I'm going to let you, Madam President, get the last word on this, because I have over talked my position today. But before we do that, I want everybody to know this is Madam President. Her website, by the way, for her products, her apparel company is thefreedom.company. So if you believe in supporting Black owned business, this is a really good one. I have some of her apparel. It's the best out here. And it's thefreedom.company. So not .com, .company. I'll put it on the screen so you can kind of see it. Super creative, super good stuff. And also you can follow her on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff at one Madam President. And my website is boycewatkins.com. So, Madam President, what are some words you can leave us with? And, if you go back to, we've had a broad conversation, I know, about a lot of different things, but we started off sort of talking about relationships and marriage and just, how that plays a part in our quest to build a peaceful community and build a wealthy community and a successful community. What are some thoughts on that that we could walk away with?
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure. It's always good to see you and connect with you, as well as with your audience. And I'm just going to say exactly what Malcolm said, that when we are united, illness, when we replace the I with we, even illness become wellness. So together, a lot of things can be accomplished. I think that Individualism is a problem for a community who are all looking for a pretty common objective. I remember one time talking to a friend of mine. I was telling her some ideas that I had about accomplishing my dreams, and she said, you know, what you want to do, it is not very distinctive. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to have a life of accomplishing their dreams and their goals, financial stability, have love. That's not special. So, if you were like me in my adolescent self, thinking that what I wanted was just so special, it's not. But what I have discovered is whatever that I want out of this life, it requires work. So whatever it is. So if you're going to be married, if you're going to be a mass singer in the world of Hollywood and pursue fame and dreams, it's going to require work. It's going to require effort. And I recommend that put your best foot forward, or don't try it at all. Just become okay with being very average. But those who do want something, those who do want to get 30 years of marriage, 40 years of marriage, 50 years of marriage, and those who do want to accomplish a dream, be prepared to go through the process.
Right on, right on. You got to work for it if you want to have it. So, and it ain't always going to be fun and glamorous. Well, Madam President has to go. I don't think that she planned to be here for so long, but I had so much fun talking to you today that I kept on going because I really enjoyed this conversation. And as you guys know, if we bring up celebrity topics, it's not to gossip or to just talk about the things that everybody else is talking about. Our goal is to elevate the conversation and to have those conversations you're not going to see in mainstream media, right? So if you agree, if this is your vibe and you like these sorts of discussions, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. And Madam President does have a show on Fly Nubian Queen, and I'll give you guys the link later. It's flynubianqueen.com. And also she will be at the All Black National Convention, hopefully this year. If not this year, then it'll be next year. We have a lot of other experts there. So if you'd like to join us in Atlanta, October 20th through the 22nd, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. And also her website is thefreedom.company, thefreedom.company. Reminder quickly, this podcast is on Spotify. This podcast is on Apple. So if you look my name up on both platforms, you can find me there. Last but not least, if you'd like for me to send you profit alerts or the $5 a day investing plan, things like that, I can text it to you right now. Just pull out your phone and text the word stock to 31996. If you text stock to 31996, I will send you that information right away, courtesy of the Black Business School, where we've educated millions of people on how to buy their first share of stock. We're getting it done, y'all. We're changing the community brick by brick. That's how we build up in here. So God bless y'all. Take care. Have a great day. We love you. Peace.
Peace.